Welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 215, Heal Thyself. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host. I'm also lovingly known as RCA. And we're here this morning in 818 Studios with my producer.
Hello, everybody. This is Dave Croft, and thank you for joining us for another episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey. As always, I hope that you have had an amazing weekend and are ready for whatever the universe has for you here at the beginning of August 1st. I'm ready. I feel it.
I know. I love when there's a new month just stretched out before me, because you know me, Dave. I love to accomplish. It's like a challenge. A whole month. What can I do?
A whole brand new, unbesmirched month. It's like
besmirched,
like clean. After the snow, but before anybody walks in it. That's what the month is.
Unbesmirched. I have never in my life used that term, but I'm going to from now on, going forward. Or I used to have this friend that would say, "From on now," instead of "from now."
From now instead. Okay. All right. From on now.
Yeah, she was so funny. She was a manager at one of the many jobs I had going through college at the pizza place. She would say, "And from on now," and I would just crack up. She would be mad. I couldn't maintain a pace.
Oh, that's funny.
Life is funny. So, I'm excited because at UNT, Unity North Tampa, where I'm now senior minister, we're doing a Marianne Williamson book 2 this month. So, we're starting that out on Sunday. This coming Sunday. So that's fun. So the talks will be here on the podcast. You can always catch them online, on YouTube at Unity North Tampa. And of course, in person, I've had people travel and be near there and join us at church. We often have people drive an hour or 2 or even 3 to join us at church. So that's a lot of fun, and our attendance is up. So we're having a great time. But the book we're doing by Marianne Williamson is called Tears to Triumph. Tears to Triumph. And it's going to be, I think, inspiring, supportive. And lately I've been using this word as a descriptor of my ministry, confrontive. I'm not sure if it's even a word.
I'm not sure unbesmirched is a word.
Right. That never stops us, Dave. Yeah. Confrontive. In other words, years ago, one of my teachers in school said, your job as a minister is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And sometimes my role is to say, hey, remember, you got a lot of power. Hey, wake up. You can change your life for the better. Don't forget that. You're not a victim. You're not a what's the word? You're not a statistic. You're not what the news says. I don't care what color you are or what you do for a living. You're a soul, baby. Lighten up, baby. Lighten up. You're a soul. So anyway, so I think the series is going to be great in August. And then I'm also doing Monday night classes. I didn't really see a reason to do like an ad because I knew we'd be talking about it every week. And the classes are a love offering to the church. So I like to do courses, from time to time where there's no actual fee. Anybody can come and, any size gift in terms of a monetary gift is welcomed. People often pay about $25 to $30 a class, but sometimes people pay $100. I've had people pay $1,000. I've had people pay $5. So all are welcome. And what we know is when you join us on the journey, when you're inspired, when you're lifted, the finances work out. People give to where they're inspired. So anyway, I invite you to that Marianne Williamson book, Tears to Triumph. Of course, is available through Amazon. And of course, if you come to the church, we'll have it available, in our bookstore. But the idea of Tears to Triumph is not unlike what we're doing today. Dave, give us our title.
Our title is Heal Thyself. Heal Thyself.
Yes, heal thyself. So I want to tell you a story. So years ago, when my son was about We were still in a car seat. So I think he was just a little over 2. And we were playing the piano. I had this, at that time, this really large, it's called a cabinet grand. It's something you'd see from the 20s, sitting in the corner of a bar, a really tall piano. And we used to sit there and play together. And when we were sitting there, I was right beside him. He was playing the piano, and all of a sudden, he flipped over backwards and onto a hard floor. So as a parent, this is like a freaking nightmare. There's no other way to say it, right? I was like, why does this always happen when I happen? That was my first thought. Because there were 2 things that happened that I want to tell you about. But so this was the first one. And so he fell back, and immediately he took his left arm and tucked it in to his body and didn't move it. So, of course, he was crying hysterically. And I said, sweetie, let's get you calmed down, let's get you rested. Anyway, so I had him lay down for a few minutes. And he went to sleep for 30 minutes. Anyway, got back up after the 30 minutes. And I said, I think we need to go to the doctor. Anyway, so trying to put him in the car seat. Well, he was in so much pain. I said, I'm not going to put you in the car seat. And he goes, Mama, you have to put me in the car seat or else we'll get pulled over and get a ticket. This is like when he's 2. So anyway, so we go to the doctor, and it was like an emergency clinic for kids, which that was traumatic in and of itself as a parent, all those things in there. But anyway, we go in there, and the doctor, very well-meaning, said, okay, he's got something called nursemaid's elbow. Have you ever heard of that? I said, never. I thought it was broken because of the way he was, like I couldn't get a shirt on him, It was so, he was in so much pain, he couldn't move it. I said, nursemaid's elbow. I said, how do you fix it? He said, well, this is why I'm explaining. The only way to fix it is for me to twist it back into shape. So he tried it once. And if you could have seen Joshua's face, I mean, it was brutal. The screaming, it was awful. He said, I'm going to try again. I said, we're done. I said, you're not trying again. I said, but let's get him calmed down. So I'm holding, my son and everything. And I say, well, if it's not broken and you can go back into shape, could it possibly go back on its own? He said, well, that is highly unlikely, but yes, it is possible. I said, okay, we're leaving. He said, but I didn't fix it. I said, you don't get a second try. No, it is too painful. And so we got in the car, and Joshua was like, what are we going to do? He was trying to figure it out. I said, I want you to talk to your body, and I want you to say, body, you know what to do, and you know where to go, and I want you to go back in place. Just talk to your body. So anyway, so we're doing that in the car on the way home, and we had been supposed to go to his Grammy's house, and he said, I still want to go. I said, all right, I'll figure out how to get a shirt on you. I mean, this is, he was in so much pain. I literally could not put a shirt on him. So anyway, we're over there, and as soon as we get there, we're telling her about it. And all of a sudden, and on all the way there, I'd been telling him to talk to his body and all this. Well, out of the blue, my mentor texted me. And when her text came in, his elbow popped back into place. Okay, I know this sounds fantastical. Like it goes, boom, and he goes, Mama, it's fixed. And his elbow, and he just stretched his arm out like that, and his elbow was fine. And so the next day, I took him to the chiropractor, and the chiropractor said, he's fine. You put it back in place. There's a certain kind of tape the chiropractor uses, and he put that on there to kind of support the muscles, around it because it had been out of place for a little bit. But he was fine. He said, oh, thank goodness he fixed it, and I didn't have to because that one's brutal. And but literally, my son's elbow went back into place on its own. And all we did was We talked to his body. We prepared his body. And then it was just crazy the exact moment that the text came through. And she's highly, highly spiritual. And she wasn't at all surprised that it happened because I said, please say a prayer for Joshua. And so the text was like sending love your way. It was like text, pow, and his elbow was fine. So what am I saying? Well, what I'm saying is, I'm going to quote Shakespeare for you. There are more things, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. There are more things, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. So there's more than one way to fix something. So now, Josh is fine. About a week later, we're outside and we're pulling, here there are trees, they're called loquat trees. Some people call them Japanese plums, or these small little plums, and they've got 2 huge seeds in them, and they're pretty prolific here in Florida. And at that time, there was one that was on the border, of the property line of our home, and we knew the neighbor and everything, so we'd go over there and, get some because there were always more than anybody could eat. Well, anyway, I was holding him in my arms. I mean, this is how young he was. And okay, I promise this is not all day going to be Josh. But he pulled a plum. And you know how when you're pulling off fruit, sometimes a branch will pull? Mm-hmm. Well, he had to pull extra hard to get the plum off. And so when he did, and the plum came off, it snapped back and hit him in the eye. And his eye, I looked at it, and it went to the side.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was excruciating. And so I said to him, I want you to just talk to your eye, and I want you to tell it knows right where to be, and that you're fine and good and well, and we're going to cover it. We're going to put a little ice. And in half an hour, he was fine.
Was this the same weekend?
Yeah, it was all within a few days. It was all within a few days. I was like, evidently I need a cone of safety.
Yeah, I know. Just wrap him in bubble wrap.
Kid, you got to get some bumps. But, what am I saying? Well, I'm trying, we have wonderful doctors, medical doctors. We have wonderful acupuncturists, that work with both of us. So it's not like I don't believe in medicine. I absolutely do. I dear friends, a ER doc, and another dear friends are nurses. So I certainly believe in all of the modalities of healing. But what I'm saying is, what we forget is the healing power that we have to call upon. And a lot of times we give our power away in ways that are inappropriate, and we don't do the work on our own, because sometimes the physical healing need is related to an emotional trauma. Sometimes the healing need is related to our other habits. Most often, the problems we typically see in an ER are self-inflicted. I say we see. I'm thinking back to my days when I was a hospital chaplain, and the ER was one of my units. Right. So often people came in, holding, a finger in an ice cup and, bloody hand in another. Yeah, I cut myself working in the garage or, whatever. But the finer detail of that is diabetes, heart issues. Those are almost always self-inflicted. Right. So in other words, we forget our power to change our lives for the better. And what I've learned is if I don't feel good physically, it's really hard to do any other work that is being asked of me. The emotional work, the spiritual work, you got to have energy, right? My career, it takes an incredible amount of energy. Well, if I'm having bodily trauma, if I'm, not actively working at healing, then something in my world will go out of sync, because I want to eat the way, we ate growing up, which is, even though my mom was extremely, extremely conscious of what you put in your, what you eat, what you eat, what you put in your belly, you know, that she was very conscious. But I grew up in the South where every Sunday was, you know, fried chicken and potatoes and, you know, those are all, you know, adrenal cloggers. You know, so all I'm saying is that we have an incredible power within us to heal. Incredible power to heal. And there's a couple of books I will put in the show notes. One is called Your Body. I think it's called Your Body Knows the Score. So I'll double check those, Dave. But one is called Your Body Speaks Your Mind. And that's by Deb Shapiro. We've recommended that one before, but it's a really good one. The other one's called Your Body Keeps the Score. And there's another one that I just found out about. I haven't read this one yet, so I'm slow to recommend things I haven't read. But because it came so highly recommended, and we're talking about this, it was about a physician who dealt specifically with kids with ADHD and helped them heal it naturally because of other things being out of balance in the body. So I will look up that title and get it to you, Dave. So think about that, friends. So, you know, those are two little things with my son. And what was so amazing is his childlike belief that he could heal himself, right? So I'm not suggesting you throw your medicine away. I'm not suggesting you don't go to a doctor when you're hurt. What I'm suggesting is there's a holistic, and I even think of it as almost holographic approach to our healing, right? So we do the prayer work, we do the emotional work, and I gave, Dave is going to put in the show notes this wonderful handout we used last month at Unity North Tampa. It's called a Words of Life meditation. And it's basically helping you look at the various areas of your body and your body process, because so many people I come into contact with on the spiritual journey have some healing need. And you might say, well, you know, I don't have a bodily need. You can apply these 6 areas I'm going to talk about to any area that you're working with. It could be an area of finance. It could be a relationship. Because what usually happens if there's something out of balance, it's usually one or more of the 6 areas that we're going to talk about that are out of balance. It's never just one thing, right? It's never just one thing. I've worked with a lot of people in recovery, and one of the things I've discovered, you know, in working with people who are getting sober is that often when people quit drinking, they are left with the emotional mess that they have not dealt with, you know, for the last 20 years that they've been drinking. And so even though their habits have shifted and they're starting to bring some spirituality on board, there's a great deal of emotional work to do. So even though the habit has stopped, the negative habit, there's still new things to add, right? So think about that. Think about that as you are, you know, listening to the 6 areas we're going to go into. But there may be a healing need in your life. I think we all have places, and I'm going to use this word, we all have places that are broken. And what I mean by that is not you're fundamentally flawed. No, I believe you're originally blessed, not originally cursed. I don't believe you're fundamentally flawed. What I believe is that we all have places of trauma where our psyche gets a little broken, right? And we usually have addictions. We usually take on these things because those places need healing. So today is about heal thyself. And as I'm saying, heal thyself, I am, of course, assuming and encouraging the work in the spiritual realm as well. And we're going to talk more about that as we come back right after these brief messages. I invite you to the wonderful book series that begins in August called Tears to Triumph. Tears to Triumph is an amazing spiritual book by the acclaimed author Marianne Williamson. Tears to Triumph is really a book about spiritual healing from the modern plagues of anxiety and depression, and it'll give you some wonderful new tools for healing, some practical exercises, and of course, support for your soul's growth and healing on every level. So I hope you'll join us in the month of August. What's so wonderful is at Unity North Tampa, I'll be doing the message, so you can catch that online on YouTube at Unity North Tampa. And the class begins Monday, August 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern online. For more information about the class, please go to CynthiaAliceAnderson.com and go to courses, and there will be more information about our class. The great news is we're offering this class on a love offering basis, and the offering will be going to Unity North Tampa. So blessings on the journey, dear friend, and I hope you can join me for Tears to Triumph on Mondays in August. Welcome back, dear friends. I hope you're connecting with the message today and what it is we're doing here. You know, our goal is always just to support you on the journey. And, you know, I love talking about healing. I love talking about the power that we have to heal. And I feel I've been remiss that I have not discussed at all Myrtle Fillmore, Unity's co-founder. But one of the things that impressed me when I first heard about Unity and I was first in a Unity church was that the founders actually didn't even want to start a church. What happened was they had so embodied the healing energy through their prayer practice that both Charles and Myrtle Fillmore had miraculous physical healings. So Myrtle Fillmore was, of course, given a death sentence in those days because she had TB and was told that that she, did not have long to live. So she was looking for ways to heal, and she and Charles, and by the way, he was just a businessman, he was a businessman at this point. He was in real estate, and they had grown up in the Methodist church. Anyway, she went to a lecture, and she heard this lecturer, his name was E.B. Weeks, said, I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. And so Myrtle Fillmore took that idea on, and it was like a bell went off. It was like, oh, this is my statement. And so she focused on that statement for hours a day, began meditating hours a day, and she lived up into her late 80s, and she did not die at a young age at all, lived up into her late 80s. And not only that, but that healing helped spur what we now have as a Unity movement, a healing movement. Silent Unity is the prayer ministry that grew out of that. So, and by the way, the CEO of Unity will be with us, coming up in a few weeks. But so what Myrtle learned is that her thoughts had a lot to do with how she felt. Now, let me say this. If I said to you, what I want to do is illustrate the mind-body connection in kind of a funny way. So if I said to you, I want you to imagine an ant crawling on the back of your neck. Pretty soon, you'd want to put your hand back there and you'd go, oh, I can feel it. Ugh, don't say that, right? Or if I said, imagine biting into a lemon. Your jaw almost wants to go, that's too sour. Well, your mind is creating a story. Your mind is creating a sensation, right? And so by one word of stimulus, your mind creates a whole story. So this is what I want to make obvious to you in your healing. I have a dear friend who's healed from a great many things. And what keeps happening is he keeps believing that he is healable. This is somebody who had HIV for over 20 years, and they now cannot find it in his body anywhere. Right? So I'm saying healing can happen as a result of our focus, as a result of our attention, as a result of us aligning our thoughts and feelings beliefs and ideas with our behaviors, right? So, if you're focusing on healing and you go to McDonald's every day and supersize it, well, guess what? That is not going to happen for you. Everyone knows that those kinds of foods are not good for you. Now, we all, have fun every now and then, but when you make that a daily diet, you are not going to be healthy. Right. And what I've learned over time is that different body systems do not handle what other body systems handle. I have a particularly sensitive body system. I used to want to make that wrong and how bad it was. But once I became friends with that, I was healthy, I was happy, I had more energy. Right? So think about that. So friend, heal thyself. It just means that you have the power to change your life for the better through focusing one of the 6 areas that we're going to discuss. And the first one, of course, is the spiritual. And the affirmation I love to use during this process of these 6 areas is the light of love guides me. The light of love guides me. So as I'm in my personal spiritual time, I'm going to be thinking about these 6 areas. If there's an area in my life that's broken, if there's an area in my life that needs my attention, and especially when there is a need in the body, because it's going to involve a great many things and behaviors. So our affirmation is the light of love guides me. And this is one of the predominant spiritual aspects. So I want you to think about, if there's a healing need, are you supporting yourself spiritually for what it is you need? For instance, if you're in a church and all you're being told is how sinful and bad you are and you leave feeling ashamed and alone, that's not a helpful idea. On the other hand, if you're in a church or a spiritual center that's telling you that God loves you, that you are holy, that you are good, that you are capable, that you have the power to heal, then you're going to leave feeling better. You're going to leave feeling inspired. You're going to leave feeling empowered. Like, yes, I can do this. So this is what we want for you. This is our hope for you, that you can find a spiritual community where you feel loved, appreciated, and honored as the spiritual soul that you are. Also, in the spirituality section, you may need to increase the time that you spend on your spiritual growth. Friends, I find that a great many people I talk with spend 0 minutes a day. 0 minutes a day on their spiritual work, and then wonder why they don't feel good. So there's got to be some time of reflection, some time of prayer, some time of even deep breathing. And I know you're going to be guided in that as you pray into, that's one of the points of the six-pointed star we're looking at. The light of love guides me. So simply sitting, thinking about the spiritual aspect of your life, praying into it, breathing into it, you're going to be guided. What is yours to do in this area? The light of love guides me. Now, I want to talk about the physical needs of the body, because a lot of times when we have something going on, especially in today's Western mind, we go to one doctor and kind of get white coat syndrome, where we no longer think for ourselves. And I think the best kind of medical care is the one where a doctor will work with you, will work with your questions, will work with these other modalities. I know a number of incredible medical doctors and acupuncturists, who are often both these days, have a very holistic approach to healing. And so I would just encourage you to think about, even if you're dealing with cancer, or even if you're, dealing with a heart issue, maybe you need somebody in cardiothoracics for your heart, but you also may need a way to decrease your stress. You may need some meditation. you may need a diet change. So you see how nutrition can really play a part in the healing of a heart issue, right? And that's also one of the points of the star is that is the medical. The medical, you may need a variety. You may need a small team. You may need homeopathics, which, do not interact or counteract, medicines. A neat thing about homeopathics is if you don't need it, there's no impact. My little mind can still not get my head around that. But my sister, who's a homeopathic doctor, constantly tries to explain it to me. And I just say, just give it to me. I know I need it. So if it does, I don't have to understand it. But so I hope this is making sense, right? And so then as you're working with issues in the body, you start to pray into, okay, the light of love guides me. What am I needing? And if you feel your doctor isn't hearing you, try again. They're busy. They have large caseloads, but they have so much knowledge that could be a real benefit if you can take time to ask the right questions, about your own healing. So already we've talked about two of those areas, the spiritual, the body, and we've touched on the others. So sometimes, and I've noticed this a great deal over the years, that there is often an emotional aspect. This is another point on the star. There's often an emotional aspect to a physical healing. Now, there's another great book I'm going to recommend by Sylvia Brown, who's, some people thought she was kind of nutty, but I really appreciated her. She wrote this book called Past Lives, Future Healing. And it was really about us bringing forward trauma from past lives. And believe it or not, she had hundreds of case studies of situations like this where people all of a sudden would just have pain in their right shoulder. And then she'd do a regression with them and they would find they would go back to the life where the pain happened and be able to heal the pain this lifetime. Because it wasn't, it was like the pain would get reactivated when something similar emotionally might happen in this lifetime. So for some of you that may seem out there, but I'll tell you, I've known a lot of people who've been able to get some help realizing that not everything we experience bodily is from this lifetime. So that can be very, very helpful. But there's often emotional needs. And the reason I went into the past lives is that everything we experience emotionally is held in the body. It's why if you ever get a massage or something of that nature, that often the massage therapist or practitioner might touch a spot on your back and all of a sudden tears come and you don't know why. Or maybe you want to giggle and you don't know why. Well, it's activating something physically that's in the emotional realm for you. So again, we want to ask, is there an emotional component that I need to work on to heal this issue? Is there an emotional aspect to this healing? And I'm not saying every time you get a cold, you have to say, how did my consciousness draw this to me? I think that's metaphysical malpractice. But what I think is that, that is important is that you hold on to that, the fact that the emotional aspect plays a part. Sometimes it's a small part. Sometimes it's a large part. But I have a friend, her name's Dr. Catherine Ponder. I say a friend. We've communicated via letter. She was ordained in 1954 and has written so many prosperity books. But she talks about a story where one time she was walking through her home, she didn't turn the lights on. It was late at night and she was just going into a room to pick up a book and didn't think she needed the light. And when she bent down, her face struck her right cheek struck a chair that was there. And it was like a real sharp pain. And so what she did, rather than get all freaked out and everything, she put her hand over the area that was impacted and basically said some kind of affirmation like, the light of God is moving through me now. I'm healed. I'm whole. I'm healthy. She went right into the spiritual, and the next day there was no bruise. She didn't look at it in the mirror. She didn't, study it and see how bad it was and poke on it the way we, prone to do. She just went right into this spiritual practice. And the next day there was no bruise, and she hit it quite hard. And she said she went to bed with no pain, even though the initial pain was very, very sharp, right on that bone. I could just imagine doing that when she described it. I was like, So think about the power that's using the spiritual for a bodily healing. Now, I've spoken a little bit about nutrition. I want to talk a little bit about it more because the truth is most of us are not taught to eat right. I don't care where you've grown up. And the issue, too, that we have now in our culture, what my doctor told me, and I thought this was a wonderful statistic, that the food we eat now, the vegetables, have 50% of the vitamins and minerals that they had just 50 years ago. I had to repeat it to make sure I had it right. She said, that's why so many people are on supplements. It's almost impossible to get enough vitamins and minerals from the food you eat now, especially because so much of our food is prepared. Now, if you're eating a lot of raw and stuff, you're probably a lot better off. But her point was, we've so depleted most of the soil that it doesn't have the same vitamins and minerals in the food. So even if you are eating well, you may have to have some kind of supplementation to make sure you're getting enough, to be at optimum health and vitality. And I thought that was really interesting. I mean, I think that's why often, we see a lot more allergies now as we don't have the stamina. We're not getting quite enough of the right nutrition to fight off the allergies, right? The allergens, I should say. Yeah. So think about that in the nutrition. You should be eating fruits and vegetables every single day. You should be minimizing your wheat intake, your dairy intake, and your sugar intake. And for most of us, we eat wheat and dairy and sugar minimum once a day, often 2 or 3 times a day. So think about that. Is there something that needs to shift? Now, having said that, I want to tell you, I am not a doctor. I cannot prescribe behaviors. I want you to check out everything you're going to do here with a medical professional. But what I can tell you is more than several people have come to me for counseling with who've been prescribed diagnosed with fibromyalgia. The interesting thing is that once they quit eating wheat and dairy and sugar, they're all better. Their joints are achy. They have no energy. Now, this is not true for every single person with fibromyalgia, but I'm saying if you're having joint pain, if you're having discomfort in your tummy, and if your joints hurt, somewhere or another, there's inflammation in the body, right? So give that some thought. Think about that. Think about how you might be being guided to shift and change, your nutrition. So think about that. Think about that, friends. What are you doing nutrition-wise that might be operating against what your intentions and goals may be for healing your body? Now, the last two, medical I've talked about quite a bit. And the basics in the medical is just that when you are trying to heal something in the body, that often we only have one doctor that we're working with. Sometimes it's our primary care doctor. Well, sometimes we need a specialist. Sometimes we need a chiropractic. Sometimes we need massage. Sometimes there are a variety of modalities that will support our healing. And I want you to know that you are worth and you are capable of finding the right medical support for you. It may take effort. It may take phone calls. It may take dealing with insurance companies. It may take paying out of pocket. This is what we have to do sometimes to heal and move our lives forward. The affirmation we'll be using is, the light of love guides me. Right? So this is not a decision that has to be only made with the mind. We're consulting the soul on this. The light of love guides me. So as you begin to deal with this on a spiritual basis, you're going to be guided to the right and perfect, helper practitioner. So the last one, intellectual, that's there really because I find I need intellectual stimulation often. I love a great deal of conversation about things. I love to learn. And if there's something going on in my body, I've learned to ask questions. I've learned to study. And I will say, in general, stay off the internet because you'll have everything from malaria to an immune deficiency if you read very far down. But what I mean is intellectual stimulation. In other words, sometimes I need a project to keep my mind busy. So I stay out of depression. So I stay out of focusing on what's wrong and be about creating something. So for me, that point called intellectual or the intellect or the mind is about having a project that brings me joy. It's some kind of stimulus that is bringing good energy into my life, into my mind, and then therefore into my world. So again, as you are working through this journey, friends, our affirmation is, the light of love guides me. The other affirmation I will leave you with today, when I'm working this really intensely, the affirmation I often use is I am one in mind and body. So is the light one. All right, so that's my affirmation for you today. Or I'll say it this way: as you are one in mind and body, so is the light one. In other words, there is no separation. There is, you are one whole being. All of these aspects, these 6 aspects that we talked about today, are going to be important aspects for healing any condition, and especially a condition of the body. Right? So we love you. We support you. We hope the best for you. And our prayer is that you will begin to do deeper work, to heal thyself. We know a healed human is a good human and a happy human. So this is our goal. This is one of the small ways we see that we can make the world a better place. So as we end our time together today, I'll give you both of those affirmations again. The light of love guides me. As you are one in mind and body, so is the light one. Thank you for joining us today, dear friends. Blessings on the journey.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2022 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.